Hey, this is V, and I've just finished The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands by Sarah Brooks. So, this is a historical fantasy novel. At some point in time in this world's history, this really strange phenomenon began to take over Siberia. Like, the animals and plants and stuff in the place started changing like so quickly that it's almost like being able to watch like evolution in action. And he had like people who wandered off into the wilderness and were never seen again, and like this odd fog that covers everything. So it got so bad that people basically can no longer live in Siberia. But for whatever reason, a company decides to build a train connecting China and Russia. So it runs from Beijing to Moscow. And I guess a major motivation is that this cuts down the journey across the continent to just 15 or so days. And that's like a spectacular savings in time. Also lets you move goods and stuff really quickly. So yeah, it's like a really pretty big moneymaker in the long run as well. But this train had to be specially designed in order to make this journey. Like, it's super heavily armored. It has to have like special glass. It has to be like all wrapped. It even have like gunners and stuff to fight off like the monsters that you might encounter along the way. And the major goal is to not let the air like from outside the train mix with the air inside, because breathing that air can have really weird effects on people. Like, it can drive people crazy, and it can also cause things to change. So there's a great deal of fear around this phenomenon, and pretty much for good reason. This story follows a group of characters as they make the journey on this train, and it's a somewhat different journey because previously like the train had actually been halted for a period of time because there was a really bizarre incident that for some reason nobody from that journey can remember, and it caused a pretty big crisis, and the train was stopped for a while. And this is the first journey that the train has taken since that really fateful happening, I guess. So one character is on the train because she's trying to find out the truth of that incident. Like, she's not sure, she believes that nobody remembers anything, but her father, who's the person who designed the glass for the train, was the one who took the brunt of the blame for the incident. And she's kind of determined to try to clear his name because it's affecting her own prospects in society, since it's bad reputation, might not be able to find like a place for herself now that her parents are gone. So yeah, she's trying to figure that out. We have a naturalist who's like a really annoying character who's trying to prove, I guess, that the wastelands are kind of like this evidence from God, I guess, of creatures striving for perfection. I don't know, his point of view is a little bit convoluted, I think, and difficult to understand, and he's like probably the one character I find extremely irritating. We have Wei Wei, who is she's called like the child of the train, like because she was basically born there. She lived on the train all her life and pretty much knows it better than anyone else. And in this particular story, she finds a stowaway, like a really mysterious girl, and it that's a major part of like her trying to handle this stowaway because she doesn't want to turn her in, and like the consequences of these actions. So yeah, you follow these characters in their journey, and it gets pretty dangerous because let's see how to not give stuff away. Suffice to say that things in the wastelands are changing, like people don't really understand it, and like the company has been stamping down on information, like they don't want other people to explore it or to try to figure things out. Like, they don't want the truth of what happened before to come into the light. And But like these changes are also dangerous, like to the point where they can endanger the lives of the passengers on this particular trip. So I'm going to kind of talk about the like and dislike together, because this is the kind of setting that I tend to like. It's like very weird, kind of surreal. Like I've been looking for ghost train type stories, and I think this does get the feeling that I was in the mood for, like the atmosphere and just the bizarreness. Like it does a good job of bringing you into that world and that feeling. But that being said, dislike. I found this story really hard to get into. Like I think the pacing was slow, which normally doesn't bother me, except that it feels kind of like both the pacing and the tone never change. Like normally I like stories that start slow, but then they do kind of have to ramp up at some point, like where you have like a big climactic event. It feels a little bit like it never got there. Like it has events that you can kind of see as culminating ones, but they all get fixed like too easily. Like it maintains the same kind of serious, surreal tone throughout the entire story. I think that actually, partway through it starts to get in the way of any feelings of excitement, I guess. And I think it also uses a kind of what I would consider maybe like a fairy tale logic, where it's not, it doesn't feel like you're really getting into a realistic story with expanded I mean, like there's one problem, obviously with the company, you can pretty much predict that it's like, oh, it's doing bad things, but they talk about how powerful it is, how much control it has, and then they bring it all down with just this one letter that they basically go out in the streets and you shout to everyone that, oh, they lied and here's this letter to prove it, and they just fall apart. Like that's the kind of thing that I think only happens in fairy tales. Like if it was an actual event in an actual world, like there would be a much more complicated story to tell. So like I don't know, in that regard I found it somewhat unsatisfying in the long run.